but I was 10 years as managing director of a consulting engineering company in Bath, and 30 years working as a civil servant before that. And I love to stay in touch with contemporary thinking, particularly in the culture and HR space. Thanks very much, Marita. Looking forward to it this morning.
You're welcome. You're always welcome. Mickey.
Hi, Mika Corzilius. I'm working at Zima Biomed, a medical device company. I'm the associate director for our global custom operations team, and my team is based in Poland, but I work from out of the Netherlands in the office currently.
In the office currently, and you have a remote team, Mickey. Super fantastic. And you work with us already. Fiona is sharing down there because her mic isn't working. She's Chief People Officer for an IT consultancy firm. Been there for 8 weeks, Fiona. So you are new. So getting to grips with how it all works. Yes. So please, Fiona, use the chat since your mic is not working and ask lots of questions. Cannot work the tech. You're in the right company to get it working for next time, Fiona. The IT, you have lots of IT people around you, so you're very welcome, Fiona. And please feel free to use the chat, put the questions in. This is an interactive session, and so please stay included. Danny.
Okay. Hi, everyone. So my name's Danny Leggett. I work for a company called Safina Foods, and I am the head of organizational development.
Super. Welcome, Danny. Okay. Welcome. And there's just one more. Ian works for me. So she is my background, keeping me on track there. And Mel, welcome. We're just doing introductions. So if you want to come on screen and take yourself off mute, please join us. And we just went around the room and introduced who's who, name and company. So if you have the opportunity to come online and do that, please join us. If you do, yes, super. Hey, Mel.
Hi, sorry I'm late.
No, never. You got here. That's a success at lunchtime in itself.
This is true. Nice to meet you all.
And so what company are you coming from, Mel?
Gusto.
Gusto. And what's your role in Gusto?
HR business partner.
HR business partner. Fantastic. So there's a common, obviously, there's a few food people around the table, which is commonly because we focus on food manufacturers and food and beverage companies. We have also some other ones, like Mickey is Zimmer Biomet is a client of ours as well, which Mickey comes from. Culture, it actually doesn't matter what kind of company you are. My background is all food. I worked in the large corporates like Nestle and Kraft when I was in operations, and that's where I say I learned my trade on creating a great culture in very close cooperation with the HR. And now we are a consultancy firm who run culture programs for companies to improve their culture. So let's get rocking. So great topic today. How HR can radically influence the culture. So love it. So let's share our desktop. And that's what we're going to be speaking today, how HR can radically influence the culture. So as the companies we work with, we see sometimes HR really struggling to, number one, feel they can influence it, number two, be respected for it, and number three, be valued for it, and four, actually be able to influence the culture and have the ability and influence to be able to do that. So this is a topic very close to my heart. So as I said, we're a consultancy firm. We run culture programs, really meeting companies where they're at now and improving the culture. Bailey of Bristol revised all their values. They did the foundations with the culture, and now they have value awards and can demonstrate that they are living and breathing their values. We have a medical devices company, which we also worked with their supply chain. We have lawyers also in DAC Breachcroft, where we worked a lot with feedback. So, and we can show and demonstrate the impact it has and how much things have improved around the engagement, the people, and the culture is our arena. So, first of all, in your opinion, what is workplace culture? Quite an interesting question. I always love to throw out there to see what's the thoughts. Jump in. We're not a massive group today, so feel free to jump in.
For me, it's a lot about behavior.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you communicate and how do you behave around colleagues in a work setting?
Super. Danny.
Yeah, sorry, I was just coming off mute. So I think for me, it's I kind of see it as almost the collective unspoken alignment about how people work with each other, how people operate, how people behave with each other. So it's almost there is no one set description, if that makes sense. It depends on the dynamics of who's actually helping to create that environment, and then that in itself becomes your culture.
Exactly. And that becomes the culture. Any other thoughts around what is workplace culture?
I think it's just everything encompassing behaviours, isn't it? Beliefs, all of that good stuff as a group of people.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, based around the beliefs, and Fiona said that's how we do things around here. Exactly, it's how we act, behave, the official and the unofficial ways of working. Exactly, Fiona. And it's how we act, how we interact, and how we react. That's I think kind of captures around that behaviors on how we act around those behaviors, the way we do things around here, how we interact, so how we communicate with each other, how we treat each other, and how we react. So how do we react around mistakes, feedback, and disappointments, struggles in the company. That is all shows and demonstrate what culture is, and it can be quite an arbitrary thing. Culture, as you saw, we all had slightly different versions of it. We're all in the essence saying the same thing, but it's quite arbitrary, and I think that's a lot of times why companies struggle to work out culture in a company and actually capture it to make sure we're all aligned about how we want the culture to be, because we all have different versions of it. So getting that alignment is key for everyone going in that same direction, going whatever we define culture is and what is our culture, and how do we get specific around that so we can actually all move in that direction. And culture is a continuum. It's going from along a continuum to where we want it to be. We do another masterclass around the 4 types of culture, which is another valuable one if you want to join that sometime, around the 4 different types of culture. But today we are talking about HR. So exactly how we act, interact, and react. What is the culture? When the culture is great, employees are happy. And why do we want employees happy? Just as a reminder, you guys know this, we get sick less often, 31% more productive, and 55% more creative. And I don't put those numbers up there to convince you. You guys are already convinced. It's about what are we actually saying to leadership when we are influencing them to improve the culture. So we did a LinkedIn poll last week. Some of you may have taken part, and we asked, is HR's role in shaping workplace culture often underestimated? You can see by this, there's an overwhelming yes, that HR's role in shaping workplace culture is often underestimated. And that just shows, I think, how important it is to get clarity around how the HR are influencing the culture and how they're going to do it, and get real clarity around that so that they can demonstrate, but also get the outcome they want to get. So what's your opinion on the reasons for this? Why do we think HR's role in shaping workplace culture is often underestimated? Come off mute again.
I think there's a misconception sometimes that it's down to the workforce to create that culture. Sometimes, certainly conversations we've had where it's almost something that you have no control over, and it is what it is.
Really great one, Belle. Absolutely. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I just top in everyone that in too many organizations, HR is kind of just seen as the folk that do the transactional stuff, the onboarding, the offboarding, holding your hand with disciplinary issues and so on, rather than the much wider behavioral aspects of the organization.
Yeah, absolutely, Muir. Totally. Anything else? I'm going to read Fiona's here as well, and Danny, sorry, just got a noisy office. So Danny's saying, I feel like culture is underestimated, and therefore by default, HR's role and impact is also underestimated. Absolutely. If the understanding is not there how they're influencing the culture, then it is it's really difficult to see the value that HR are bringing. Absolutely. So I think adding to Mel's one, some of the reasons we have come across as leadership don't value culture. So it's, whatever culture is formed, they just don't value it. So whether HR are influencing it or not, it doesn't really make a difference. Difficult to show impact. So they're doing a lot of work around culture, but it's difficult to show the impact from an HR point of view. So it's really difficult to demonstrate the difference that they're making. Lack of clarity around accountability. And this is from what you put about designing the culture, number one, influencing the culture and having metrics that people are accountable around to make sure it's really clear who is responsible for what parts and that the actual culture is improving. No clear plan in place is another one. So, we often ask leadership, so what plans have you for the next year? And there's the marketing plan and the strategy plan and the sales plan. And then we ask, what about people and culture? Is there a culture plan? And so often there is not a culture plan in place. So having that clarity around the culture, which then is often led and driven by HR, not so much implemented, but designed and embedded by HR, not so much implemented. HR is seen, as Muir said, as an admin function doing the HR role of payroll, etc. And not taken as the real strategic direction for the people side. So just facts, 67% of leaders believe that culture is more important than strategy or operations, but only 6% of leadership time is spent on culture. 6% of leadership. So even though the majority know it's important, there's only 6% of leadership time spent on culture. 69% of senior leaders credit most of their success during the pandemic to culture. So really that was kind of that safety net. It was the savior during that, because everything came reduced and came down, and the engagement and the satisfaction level obviously all came down during COVID, but the ones with strong cultures were able to maintain and survive so much stronger than the ones that didn't, because they didn't have that safety net of that commitment and belonging of the employees. So even though there is a strong commitment to, or strong understanding that culture is important, little use of time towards culture, but a strong commitment that it is important, we know that the data shows that actually the employee experience is not matching that. So there seems to be the knowledge that it's important, but however, that employee experience is not showing up. it's not matching the desire. And we were on a call with Muir recently, and I loved the colleague said, you know, why are we failing people so much? Why are we having so much disengagement? How are we letting the people down so badly in companies? And that is really, truly the question. So a lot of people saying it's important. Why aren't we managing to get that employee experience up there? So 3 reasons why leadership struggle with culture. And the reason I'm starting with this is why then I think where HR can massively influence. So the 3 reasons I believe leadership struggle with culture is, number 1, there's an impression that it takes a long time. So what's the point, especially in companies where there is maybe a common tenure of 2 to 3 years of a leader, the feeling that, is it going to take too long? Will I see the payback? It's a lot of effort for how much actually payback. So the time it's going to take me to have an impact is literally too long. And that can be an impression. I don't believe it actually is. The how. So even if I'm fully committed, I love culture and I'm really want my people to have a great experience, how do I go about it? Where do I start? There's so many things in employee engagement. There's so many things around culture. Where do I start? And what do I actually do? Is a big lacking. There is no clear culture plan in place, and we want to talk about where we feel that HR can massively influence this as well. And last, so it takes too long, not really sure how to attack it, and then the impact is not clear. So when I do actually do this work, what is going to be my impact and how will I measure it? What are my culture metrics that I use? You know, what's going to be my culture KPI that I'm going to be using there to make sure that what we're doing, and there is so many choices of initiatives you can do, what I'm actually doing is that having the impact I wanted to have. So Claire, you've joined us. You're more than welcome. We've come up to the point. We talked about culture. We talked about how leadership are committed to. 67% say culture is important, more than strategy and operations, but only 6% of leadership time is spent on culture. And now we're on to why leadership struggle with culture. What is those barriers that prevent leaders from really attacking and taking it on and wanting to make it great?
Amazing. Thank you. I'm so sorry for being late.
Oh, please don't apologize. Delighted you can jump in. So Claire, what company are you coming from, just so we have some context for you?
So I'm actually joining today on behalf of 2 companies, my own company, HR180, which is an outsourced HR team that's been going since 2006. But I'm also the global group HR director for a business called Wonder. We have 2,500 employees across the world in 11 different countries, 4 continents. And we've been very small businesses previously, entrepreneurial businesses that now are part of a group, and we need to have centralized culture that everyone is aware of and understands.
Amazing, amazing. So not just 1 job, 2 jobs, Claire, you decided to just to keep yourself extra busy, squash as many tasks into the day. So these are the 3. If we're starting with because of course we need to be able to influence the leadership. If we talk from a HR point of view now, if we're influencing the leadership, we need to overcome those 3 barriers of how do we ensure that at the time that we can see the outcome, the lack of knowledge of how to actually improve it, so that plan and what is the impact we're going to have. So let's go. I have all the people. So what are the 3 things I believe HR can do to radically influence the leadership and culture? And I'm putting leadership in there because unless we influence them, we ain't going to be influencing the culture. So number 1, have a clear plan on how to influence the culture. What is that clear plan? And can we communicate it to management and leadership and managers and team leaders and anyone who has an influence on the culture? Can we say where we are and what's the plan and what we're going to do next? Measuring the impact. This for me is really, really important, more so for the leadership to be able to show the impact that you're having. Where are we now? where do we want to go, and then definitely some dollar figures in there to show the cost of it as well that it's having on us as a company. So having a plan, measuring the impact, and be a leader who walks and talks the culture. So be that leader who is the walking the talk, which is that very English saying of doing what we say we should be doing. So those behaviors that Mika mentioned in the beginning that defines our cultures, that you are a golden example, as and I'm talking to you as a HR now, but you or your HR are a golden example of that walking and talking that that culture. So there are 3 really key things. So let's dive a bit deeper. So how do we bring clarity on that, how we improve the culture? So how do we make that plan? Some of you will have seen this before, but always good to reinforce it. How do we bring that clarity to the culture? So we talk about having, just like you have, if any of you are in manufacturing, any of the manufacturing lines will have an operating system. Any functional machine has an operating system. Why don't we have an operating system for culture? And this is the how you go about it. And this creates your plan. So number 1 in the middle is design those fundamentals. That is your purpose, the why you exist, that inspires employees to go above and beyond what is just the normal day-to-day. So define your purpose. What are their values? That's the what we value. And then translating those into really clear behaviors, the what we do and what we don't do, what is rewarded and what gets punished. So bringing that clarity around the fundamentals makes it, as Mel said, then it's not the operationals that's designing it. You guys or the team and a cross company, normally we do these cross company, but you are massively as a HR influencing the behaviors that are desirable amongst the employees. So purpose, values, and behaviors, they're the fundamentals. So now we have clarity around what the culture looks like. Now we need to, of course, get that embedded, because that's only stage 1. Then it becomes a lovely poster on the wall or a file, and that's no good to us. We now need to make sure that it gets activated and embedded. Then we go on to ritualize some of these behaviors and these values, but the practice of them become a fundamental, whether it's in meetings, whether it's rewards that we do, some rituals, and rituals bring us together, make us feel like we belong. And we all have rituals. We have rituals at Christmas that we do with the family. They're things that we repeat that become habit, but what they do is they are not just by accident, they are designed to reinforce those behaviors that you want to bring alive and embed. So really designed with each team around what is that ritual that will bring those values and behaviors alive. Then into select, so hiring the people that fit the culture. That's the hiring. You guys will know about that. Onboarding. So this is a very key one. So we've just spent a lot of time this week talking about in our program about onboarding. How do you bring them in and keep that passion? You know, everyone starts up here with enthusiasm when they start their job. Then what do we do as leaders? Something happens along the way and we just decrease. So our job and our duty, in my eyes, as leaders, is to say, you came here with passion and enthusiasm to do a great job. My job as a leader is to create an environment where you can continue that enthusiasm and deliver and perform and be highly engaged. So that is really massive for me, is onboarding. Yes, Danny, thank you. Agreed. So that's now we're bringing the new people in, hiring people that fit quite well. We have a lot of discussion around fit and fitness, because we say we don't want to go into group think and all look like and feel like us. We want people who are variety, but more who can adapt into the culture. Then onboarding, coaching. We win and lose cultures through the team leaders. So those managers, and when I say managers, anyone who has responsibility for people, so the supervisors, coaching them to have the skills and confidence to reinforce the culture. Will they pull up someone who does not behave in line with those behaviors that we've defined at the beginning. If they don't have the confidence and skills to do that, then the culture will spread and grow as the wild garden. The weeds will start coming up. Then we communicate. So that's the next part of the plan. And as you can see, HR is fundamental in each of these. They are the backbone. They are the one making each stage happen. And that's why I believe HR can radically influence the culture. So now we're at number 6, communicate. So whether it's creating town halls, whether it's newsletters, or however we want to communicate the culture, we talk about seeing it, hearing it, and feeling it. You need to have those 3 through the communication, weaving it into all forms of the communication. And HR can be the one to make sure it is ingrained and integrated into each one of those. Reboarding. So actually, sometimes the new hires are the easiest ones to get on board with the culture. Actually, it's sometimes long-term employees who've been around for a long time and maybe have lived a slightly different culture, that the one that you are desiring are the ones that need the most attention. So doing that reboarding and regularly reinforcing that culture to existing. We miss that one a lot, and HR can be key to setting all of that up to ensure the reboarding is happening. So every time we're nudging people towards the direction that we want to go. And as you said in the beginning, Mel, it's not by default, it just happens by accident. Actually having that clear plan and direction so that we're nudging them in that direction. Leaders, lead by example, walk the talk. Absolutely, this is not just our HR, but this is also our leaders. And in my eyes, this is where HR is key, getting them feedback about how they're doing. In that engagement survey, do we have a question about whether our leaders are really living and breathing the values? It's a great measurement to have to feedback to the leaders, holding up the mirror. We have to be very courageous as HR to be able to hold up the mirror to leaders, but that can be the winning and losing of culture when we know the leaders have to walk the talk to make sure that everyone else will also live and breathe the culture. Aligning. Again, this is HR key, designing our systems and processes around the culture and educating our people on how to design meetings and what could they have in there, how to design their feedback so that it is all reinforcing the culture the way we want it. But they're processes and systems. If we're very transparent and open, but then we are not sharing how things are done, then that is not matching the culture. And again, HR can be the ones to hold that mirror up to say, you know, what we're saying in our values is actually not the way we're living. Accountability. So a very strong one for me. Employees don't need empowerment is a word that is thrown around. They need accountability, and they need authority on what they can and cannot do. So that is real, and that helps bring around the accountability. So not empowerment, authority. What can I and cannot make a decision on? Around culture, it's having that accountability, metrics in place, and having our leaders being held accountable. Anyone, managers who have responsibility for people being held accountable against that culture. There's nothing like a number next to our name that makes us want to do better. We're still like in school wanting to get 10 out of 10 in the spelling test. It inspires us to aim for higher. It also can bring awareness of where there's a lack of skills. So this is the how, the culture operating system. So bringing leadership on board, saying, you know, these are the 10 steps we need to do. We don't have those 10 steps now, but we have these ones. This is where we are with these ones. This is the next one we're going to tackle. And we always say tackle one at a time just to get that on board and sorted so that you can then move on to the next one. So that is your operational system. So now that helps bring clarity about the how the heck are we going to get this culture? We've designed it, and then we have built a plan around it on how to get there. Great. So now, as a leader, if I was sitting outside, I was like, impressive HR, very impressive. You have a plan for me. So now show me the impact of investing in culture. You want to take the managers out for these workshops. You want to do this engagement survey, XYZ, all of these things that cost money. Show me the impact of the culture survey. So we say, have a culture dashboard. Have a culture dashboard. So now, my lovelies, have a look here. If this was your culture dashboard, what would you be taking away? You're now sitting in the leadership team. Your HR have showed this culture dashboard. What, as MD, CEO, finance director, marketing director, what are you taking away?
It's costing us a lot of money and time.
Where are you seeing the time, Mickey?
So the absenteeism, that always takes a lot of time and effort from the team, from HR, from management itself. And the fact that there are one-on-ones planned, but no one values really the feedback that they are given. I would say it's a waste of time for anyone in that meeting if no one values what is being said.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Anyone else have any takeaways? What would you be saying if you were a leader in this company and this was shown to you? Anyone want to add in? So as Mickey says, it's costing us a lot of money, costing us a lot of time, and we're doing these one-to-ones that are not valuable. Our culture design is in the red, our engagement is all right, but our new hire satisfaction. So our new guys coming in, as we talked about, with that enthusiasm and passion, after they've done their induction time, the new hire satisfaction is really in the low. So we're losing them already in the first year from an engagement point of view. Potentially then we know that they leave. So the better the onboarding, we know the higher chance that people will stay. So what would you say to focus on first if you were the leader in this company? And from Danny, we said culture design is not effective to engagement. Why? Try to understand. Low levels of leadership engagement that you would expect from here. Absolutely. So what would you focus on first? Leadership goes first, need to make noise. Absolutely. So this was actually a real culture dashboard that we did. Hearts over minds and money. Yes, definitely, Denny. This was actually a dashboard that we did. The culture design was really low. They didn't have in place. They had a very nice history of a culture. So there was still a bit of a legacy in that. So that's why their engagement was still orange. It hadn't, but it was decreasing. They could see. Their staff turnover, you see, was a red arrow, went massively, was increasing massively. Their absenteeism had went up, and they were asking, what's happened? Why is our culture not where it was? Yeah, they do the monthly pulses. That's what we brought in as well on these monthly pulses. And this was one of the first ones we did as a baseline to where they were. An absolute, where did we start? We started at the very basics about designing the culture from the beginning, designing it, then going into ritualizing, then going into hiring and onboarding, getting that sorted, and then moving into the comms and reboarding. So Comparing then to a lovely green one who are a strong version. The culture design is really good. Their engagement is moving up. New hire satisfaction is hitting top marks. Their staff turnover is coming down, absenteeism coming down, and they've changed their monthly pulse. Now they're onto the beef. So each of those around the how, we do a pulse around those to say, right, let's check in where we are at. If one-to-ones is really important to us in our communication, then let's measure how impactful it is. This was the behavior of our leaders is consistent with these company values. I can guarantee you that started much lower when we did the baseline for it. But this gives, as you can see, a very clear picture of where we are and what's the impact. So we skip that. So there's always a culture. You end up one with whatever you do. So you can either choose to shape it or take your chances. One of my favorite sayings. Absolutely. So any clarifying questions before we go on to the next section? No, everyone doing good? Great. Okay, so we have you for another couple of minutes. So we have a Culture Smart Leader Accelerator. Mickey is part of this accelerator, and what we do is we help whoever it is, if they are HR, to develop their dashboard so they can clearly communicate the impact the culture is having, an easy and effective, personalized. It has to be around whatever the company is doing and what's important to them. And then we do live coaching, and we have an academy for the culture operation system. So we give the tools to be able to implement each of these stages, so that it is fast take, and the HR do not have to design these themselves. And then we also, for that leader walking the talk, we do personal brand workshops. We call them Fizzy Fridays, where we do some personal development so that we make sure our HR, who are those, have those leading the culture in the company. They are not doing it, but they're leading the culture in the company, are living and breathing their best selves and the culture. So this is our Culture Smart Leader Accelerator. If you would like to have a little bit, so it's an academy, network, and club all rolled into one. So all our people integrate together on our live coaching sessions. Mickey, maybe you want to say what's the one thing that has been of value to you being a Culture Smart Leader?
To me, it's a lot about, I guess you don't necessarily learn a lot of new things, but it's what it is for me is that you are able to capture something that can be very, I don't know,
abstract
yeah, into something that you can actually work with, and it will help and influence the people, the team, and the company in the end. So it's a really practical thing. It gives you a lot of insight in numbers, in data, and for me, behavior is one of the most important things that is very an abstract thing, but if you talk about it, and the way we learn it in this workshops is that you can make it less abstract, and that you need to talk about it and think about it. What is important for us, and what is it that we do and do not accept, etc. And that will help immediately in any team, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. Great, and especially for you, your drive was having a remote team that you were managing remotely, and actually setting up a new supply chain department in Poland and making sure that culture was developing was key.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So if I'll just put the demo. If you want to have a demo, we do a quick demo. We also talk about your culture, so you can get some tips and tricks on how to take that you can use immediately. Oh, I just did that twice. There we go. So jump on and book a demo with us. We'd love to talk to you about your culture, where it is now and where it is. So after that, for me, this is most important, that you guys got something to take away. Let's have a little gem and pledge. What is your gem and pledge from this session? Because then you will warm my heart that you took something away. So tell us, what is your gem and your pledge? Who's first? Maybe we go to Mel first there.
So I love the operating system. I think that was great. And that's something I'm going to take away today and see how that will fit on my site. I think that's really great. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Mel. Super. And Fiona said the dashboard and the monthly pulse question. Oh my God, that can be the most effective thing because you can see it live, regular, and it reinforces the work that is going on and not waiting for the impact. So staff turnover engagement, there's normally slight delay on seeing the numbers there, but yeah, that monthly pulse. Danny, to remind us that the culture does not take time. Yes, you can have an impact immediately. As Mickey said, clarifying those behaviors, you can see it immediately, for example. To create a clear structure to support culture and measuring it more effectively. Absolutely brilliant. Super. Fiona, I've just implemented a new PDR system. So in a month, I will ask the question, how useful was the meeting? And then I can see if leaders need more help. Brilliant. And get them to rate it so you have a number and then pulse that and keep pulsing it for about 6 months, Fiona, at least before you change that pulse so that you can see some continuation, improvement up and down. What are people doing? Is it being doing? We are 7 small companies into one, so loads of cultures. Yes. So really important there, Fiona, about getting clarity about what is the culture, those behaviors, that you want to see on an everyday from everyone. That will help bring clarity because we will all, every different company will be living their cultures. Super, Fiona, Danny, and Muir. Any gem?
Yeah, well, you know, Marita, I've been here before, and a bit like Mel, I very much like the operating system, and I sort of increasingly carry it around with me, particularly when I'm in other organizations, just to sort of, you know, an informal checkoff list. And I'll also borrow from Danny, I think, who talked about culture does not take time. That's really important. But we mustn't forget it does take effort, particularly on the part of leaders.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Mira. And Mickey?
Yeah, I think I can add to that, or I can't add a lot to that, but definitely that it's it takes effort from leaders, but it's very rewarding, let's say. If you don't do it, you immediately see the effect, right? In the beginning, we had high turnover, attrition was crazy, and it just makes everyone, you sort of get in a vicious circle where, you know, someone leaves, workload gets too high, other people leave, and then it builds up and builds up. And if you get that under control, and I think culture is a big one that can prevent that from happening.
Absolutely fantastic. Super. Okay, I will sign you off because I am 3 minutes over. I apologize. I said I keep you for 45 minutes. So you're very well. Thank you, Mel. You love the energy. Fantastic. My husband says maybe too much sometimes, but lovely to meet you all. And yes, so we will share the recording with you all. And yeah, and so we do regular masterclasses. So please join us whenever a topic that comes up that's useful. Good. Have a great day, guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye all.
Bye.